Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs Program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, Wings and a Prayer Men's Ministry meet every second Thursday of the month in Wallingford at the Pig Rig Barbecue Restaurant. Today and tomorrow, you're going to hear from ministry leaders Ben Blackburn and Danny Franciscini. They'll be expounding on what Wings and a Prayer is all about and more. That's happening now on the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Doing great.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here because you have something to share with us. You're part of this groundswell of men's ministries that's popping up, and just one of them is Wings and a Prayer Men's Gathering, which meet every second Thursday of the month at the Pig Rig Barbecue Restaurant or Joint in Wallingford. And I think it's a very unique thing, and you guys just happen to be celebrating 5 years. Now, before we get into Wings and a Prayer Men's Ministry, I'll start with you, Ben. What's your journey to Christ? Your nutshell testimony, brother?
Yeah. Well, I'm a preacher's kid. My dad was a Methodist minister, and growing up in the Florida Conference. Passed away when I was 7, but I've always stayed in the church, always been a believer. Rededicated my life when I was in junior high, growing up in Orlando. It's been a journey, and a lot of peaks and valleys, but generally speaking, I've been consistent since my early teens to with my walk with Christ. Been dedicated.
And you, Danny?
Well, I was living for myself for most of my life, and right around the age of 32, was going through a lot of problems with my wife. Ended up changing everything in my life. I remember the day that I gave my life to the Lord, May 21st, 2002. I have not looked back since. Continue to grow and continue to just be a man of God.
2002, I was just moving here to this foreign country called Connecticut. I didn't know anything about Connecticut, so you said you haven't looked back since.
No.
And I haven't moved back to California since. It's February 11th, 2002 is when I came stumbling into this third smallest state in these United States. So Wings and a Prayer, Ben, what is it all about, brother?
Yeah. We call it a parachurch ministry. Probably a better term is interchurch, because what we're really dedicated to is bringing guys together across congregational lines to really, unite, meet, and share together and become kind of like a brotherhood. The origin of it was about a little over 5 years ago, because today is our first anniversary. A gentleman named Ed Schmidt and I were meeting, and we're longtime friends. We just gathered together one night and says, look, why don't we start a ministry that's just about getting together with guys and having fellowship? No agendas, no specific studies, really all about just connecting guys across the church walls. And Ed's term was, get them out of their caves. And that can mean both their homes and their own church environment to get the experience of the full Christian body. And so we said, we just opened it up one night and said, let's just have it together. We had 16 guys the first time, about 5 or 6 different churches represented. And it was really just a gathering to connect. And we started a thing, part of one of the aspects of Wings and a Prayer is called Hub and Spoke, which we want to make a center where guys can come in, meet one another, but also learn about what's going on in individual churches. And so that concept kind of grew, and we started building them. When the trust became between the core group of men, we started seeing that guys were going to events at other guys' churches and making connections. And so Hub and Spoke is really about just making them aware of things that are going on in the community as it relates to Christian brotherhood. And we still have that tenet to this day. Mm-hmm. There's literally something going on every day of the week in this Cheshire, Wallingford, Meriden, expanded area of men's. If guys want to get connected, other fellowship opportunities, and not be constrained to one church, it's really a good opportunity to meet them and really open up and trust one another. Our concept was, I don't think neither Ed nor I thought it would get to a point where it would be as popular as it became. And so we've got a lot of connections with about 13 different churches right now in the area where men come from that and are vital members of it's really an ad hoc organization. We're not a church. And I'll get into the 4 tenets in a minute, but it's really about connecting guys and forming a brotherhood that remains to this day. And I think Danny will tell you Some of my deepest friendships I've ever had have come in the last 5 years.
Amen.
If you're just joining us, we are live with Ben Blackburn and Danny
Franciscini.
Well, praise God. I'm glad you guys are here. Danny, you have a passion for men's ministry, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And it actually has fired up in the last 2 years. I started going to Wings and a Prayer, and then it showed me that there are other men's ministries outside of just my church. My new motto is leave no man behind. The opportunity to get outside of the walls of the church and my home church, which is Cornerstone, be able to meet other men. My brotherhood has gone from two to three guys to probably over 60 to 100 guys that I can count on at any given time. I just had surgery recently, and I'm not one to accept any help, but the brothers have come together to love on me and show me that love. And it was not my home church. It was just brothers from, like Ben said, 13 different churches, which is totally awesome. You don't usually see that,
right?
Especially men coming and saying, you know what, I'm going to visit you in the hospital. I'm going to bring you a meal, and I'm going to come over to your house and sit with you. That was such a humbling experience. I was on the receiving end of that. So I've been on fire the last 2+ years, and just all the different men's ministries, between Wings and a Prayer, my home church, which has 2 men's groups on Wednesday morning and Wednesday night. Breakers has been a blessing, which is men getting together, reading various Christian books and coming together and discussing them. That has grown so much, and it's just so beneficial to get everybody's different perspectives. And then we have Saturday morning men's breakfast that we go to, and we hear speakers, and our new ministry for Embers. I mean, it's just totally awesome.
Yeah, I want to talk about Embers in a moment, but Ben, the 4 tenets of Wings and a Prayer.
When we started this 5 years ago, I mean, one of the things that we were adamant about, we started off actually, no politics, no recruiting. So I really, let's turn it to a positive. So instead of saying no this, no that. So the 4 basic tenets are, the first one is very critical. It's called love your church. We want men to stay dedicated, committed to their church. And part of what we want to do is show them, help them build their gifts up so they can contribute to that body. We're adamant about that, saying that, you stay loyal to your pastor, loyal to your church, use your gifts, and we don't allow recruiting at Wings and a Prayer. And if we see people trying to say, hey, come to my church, we'll cut it off because we want to build that alliance and that trust with the local churches. Part and parcel of that is the second tenet, which is love your pastor. I don't think pastors get enough love from the guys in their church, their own congregants. And we think that, and it's also a very lonely position. I mean, I'm a preacher's kid, but my dad died when I was young, but I still am very sensitive to how pastors are treated in the church. And we want guys to use their gifts not only in their church, but also to support and love their pastor and help it grow.
Yes.
Because the pastors have an intense job, and it is just, overwhelming. I don't think we're sensitive to that enough at times. Our third tenet is called love your community. And that originally started off as no politics, but I've thought about it, and if I think about like this radio station, you transmit many areas, but you have repeaters that go out throughout the different part of the state. The church operates like one of those repeaters, so that it has a group an area that it covers, and I think a local church can only cover so much. Our vision for what we want to see in Wings and a Prayer is that this network of men's groups have a connection across the state and do almost like an iron dome of men that are praying and working towards the kingdom. I think the church itself is super important. Pastors run that, transmit the power down to the people. But connecting that on a broader scale is a vision we have for Wings and a Prayer. And we don't allow any politics. There's no red or blue. There's no Democrat, Republicans. We strictly forbid any political discussions in our gatherings. And our fourth one is maybe the most poignant one that we've seen so far, and that's love your brother. And as Danny had mentioned, you're only going to build relationships with men that you can trust. And we build that level of trust among each other, and it's all about what says here stays here. It's kind of your Raiders are now in Las Vegas, right? That's a comment. That's a Las Vegas quote. But what's said at Wings and a Prayer or any of the other events that churches we work with, it stays here.
And you just heard from Ben Blackburn and Danny Franciscini, ministry leaders for Wings and a Prayer Men's Ministry, which meet every second Thursday of the month at the Pig Rig Barbecue Restaurant in Wallingford, 950 Yale Avenue, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Join me tomorrow at this same time for part 2. If you'd like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. I'm Jerry Williams for the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.